Do you have what it takes to design a better world? Join the Nature Tech Nexus today to participate in an upcoming hackathon and design competition for valuable rewards from our partners. We start with a ReFi Mangrove Challenge May 3rd to the 5th. Register at betterworlds.com/challenge.
The battle for our future is here. If it is cheaper to save the world and more meaningful to save the world than to spoil the world with rotten material from the past, and we have just reached the tipping point. Not the fair tipping point of everything will collapse, but the tipping point of people understanding and can act together. So everyone can participate in this, and they should. They should invest in their future, not only in their car and in their houses and their television set. Invest in yourself, in your children, and the future of the children of the world.
Welcome to Better Worlds. I'm your host, Mutz. Today is Earth Day, a day we come together to celebrate the beauty that is our home, our planet. From Mount Kilimanjaro and Lake Victoria in Africa, to the Grand Canyon in North America, to the Blue Lagoon in Iceland, our land, our planet, our home is beautiful. And since 1972, over 1 billion people have been gathering around the world across 193 countries celebrating our home. But our home is on fire. We're seeing increased destruction of resources. We're seeing climate change, global warming, and our home needs saving. And so today, as we celebrate Earth Day, we also have to contemplate and think about how we are affecting our home. And I recently had a pleasure of talking to people that are actively trying to save our planet. They are the tip of the spear in the movement to save our planet. And I held a series of panels, and these are people who are showing us what kind of tools we have in place to save our planet. Because it's going to take all of us coming together to put in a collaborative effort to save our home. Because as beautiful as it is worth saving. So if you're watching this, grab a drink, grab your popcorn, and sit back and learn how we can use the tools that we have to work together and save our planet. I'm your host, Mutz, and as always, do good and have fun, and we'll be right back.
Last year I went to Guatemala, and my whole focus for that trip was to, how do we decentralize this? How is DeFi, ReFi, how does that work in the jungle? You know, how do we get these people on the chain? And I was sat with these indigenous communities, and they were just like, Snap, how does it work? You know, show me the app, show me the, oh, that means I can just do peer-to-peer transactions to this guy over in that village, and that means that I can now be bought into this parcel of land that I get to control, and then the benefits, the rewards, the tokens, it all just snap. They just got this immediacy. They got the whole trustless aspect of Web3, but they don't have to go through a third party. They're just on that. That's my experience, you know. It's so intuitive as a system because it's so close to the barter system, right? It's so human in that sense.
Can ReFi and DeFi be used to save the planet? When we come back, we're going to be talking to Katelyn with Open Future Coalition, Vinay with Materium, and Craig with Climate Collective. Stay tuned. What needs to change in the current status, in the current world that we're living in? What needs to change for this regenerative finance to take mainstream, to be commonplace for everybody?
Well, I think first it's sort of coordination and collaboration. I think that we need greater transparency within and across sectors and projects. I think that before we even move to strictly capital market style definitions, it's really about transparency of data. It's about learning forward. It's about peer-to-peer learning and ensuring that the right people have right information at the right time. And I also believe that what we're measuring and why is an essential component of how we might define a regenerative project. I think that a measure for success would not just be based on the outcome of one project, but our ability to templatize, to share learnings with others, to capture qualitative and quantitative data, and then to maintain transparency and context at scale. And so my definition of value within these projects is really the ability to capture that contextually aware information in a way that both, going back to that sort of dance, is able to empower these efforts to provision for themselves by interfacing with existing capital markets, but also over time provides new ways of defining what value is in closer and closer terms to value for people and planet, and starts to capture some of these otherwise kind of intangible assets and local multipliers and other types of information that are currently not being accounted for, but are certainly impacting all of our economies.
Right.
So the question that I kind of look at the future through is basically, what year is it, right? If you think about, the Ethereum blockchain, the question is always like, what year is this in the blockchain relative to, say, the unfolding of computers? Is it 1976 and Ethereum is the homebrew computer club? Is it 1999 and Ethereum is the early stages of Amazon? We're thinking in terms of like technology adoption curves, public awareness, these kind of things. So in that sort of spectrum, I would say that ReFi is sort of kind of where the internet was just about maybe 2 years after email was invented. It's very, very, very early. Because at this point, it's quite hard to demonstrate that wealth is being preserved when it's moved out of the destructive economy and into the regenerative economy. It's not impossible, but it's tricky. And there's a question about what the carrying capacity is, right? If we say that we don't want more than, say, 0.5% or 1% or 2% of slippage in financial capital terms as we move money out of the destructive economy and into the regenerative economy, how much money can we move before we've exhausted all the opportunities that are both properly regenerative and also don't destroy the financial capital when you move it across? And that carrying capacity question is really the crux of the entire thing. Because if we oversell, then you wind up with a bunch of projects which are either not properly regenerative or destroy wealth when you move them in. And so it becomes this very delicate dance of not overreaching past the capacity that we have to actually provide regenerative financial instruments, regenerative financial products, while at the same time acknowledging that the world is super seriously on fire. And then the question is, well, how much slippage are we willing to tolerate? If this costs me 15% of the wealth in the investment, but it saves the lives of 25,000 people from starvation because we stabilize their agriculture, well, maybe our cost per life is $300 or $400, right? And those kind of equations are only really present right now in sort of actuaries and insurance companies and lawsuits about industrial accidents. Pricing lives is something that only really happens in lawsuits, but it is actually part of a regenerative finance platform in the same way that pricing nature is. What is a species worth? Well, it's literally priceless. Do we start assigning dollar values on what's priceless to try and get capitalism to respect that? Or do we try and make sure that we have a line between the sacred and the profane, and we don't start putting dollar values on, coastal shrimp species number 35 million, right? It's a very, very delicate balance. So I would say we're pretty early on in the ReFi, development, the mindset development, because there are some really deep axiomatic questions about the nature of instrumenting value in a world this complicated, but also in a world in a crisis this deep. Do we make a bunch of hurried decisions and try and move a bunch of money very fast in that space? But frankly, the whole thing gives me a headache.
I would say 90 to 99%, and that's a made up number, but in my mind, 99% of the people have grown up in this old economy, right? And so how do we translate that to them in saying that could they potentially get similar returns, or at least make buy in this new economy, whereby they say, now I'm willing to adapt this new economy and take it on, because I understand we need to regenerate the earth, we need to value human life, we need to value our resources, but at the same time, I need to have some returns. Is there a way we can explain that to them, that you can get best of both worlds, or is that even possible?
So I think it's a really good question. And there's a really nice talk that's been given by Sepp Kamvar, who is one of the co-founders of Cello. And, obviously not to talk our own book here, but the point of what he says and the point of this talk is to say, like, how can we make money beautiful, right? And how can we sort of make sure that the incentives behind currencies that we're trading and the things that we're bringing on to back up these digital currencies are things that we want to value. And so making sure that we're pushing those sorts of things, and also being incredibly transparent with people around, what are our end goals, who are the stakeholders that these particular projects are benefiting. Just to come back a little bit to both what Katelyn and Vinay were saying earlier, is that it's so critical that we get the stakeholder relationships right. And it's so critical that we make sure that all of this is incredibly transparent, that without all of that at the outset, then we risk falling back into what is our current status quo, right? If we have particular projects that we're bringing on and we're advertising as ReFi, as regenerative finance, but they still are ignoring the stakeholders that have been ignored for in the previous iteration of sort of regular finance, even DeFi to some extent, then we kind of haven't done it right. And a lot of that is like onboarding a lot more people, particularly in the global South, making sort of digital currencies accessible and accessible by mobile. So there's a lot. I could go on and on and on, but like the thing how are we making sure that we're taking the right ones into account, and how are we making sure that they benefit?
All right, so back to you again, Craig. So with this, do you think cryptocurrencies and DeFi, are they critical to this new economy? And if so, what are the initial issues that you see that are stumbling blocks for it to become mainstream?
That's a great question. I feel like that's a great question. I think, is it critical? I think you're asking a group of people who are in particular biased toward it. So I think our answer would be, yeah, we think this is a great technology for this. Though you are right, there are potential stumbling blocks and potential roadblocks to being able to make sure that it is truly accessible. I think, something that Vinay mentioned earlier before we got on, which was like, how do we ensure and make sure that we're communicating properly, that this is different than what has happened before, right? And a lot of that is making sure that we have democratized access to this. There is a much greater promise of democratized access using, Web3, but it is still yet to be borne out. Like, we need to be able to say, how can we onboard the farmer in Iowa, the farmer in East Africa, the regular grandma in Romania, someone, right? We need to make sure that this is accessible to all those folks, because otherwise it's just going to be a lot of the same folks who have had this, who have had early access to projects with huge upside that are going to find access to that already. And that is, I think, something that we have seen, and we need to be very careful of moving forward.
Earth Day, to me, is a reminder that we all belong to one home, but our home is on fire. And I'm not just talking about global warming, I'm talking about destruction of nature in general. If we were living in a house, if we were, if there was smoke coming out of somebody's bedroom or the basement or the attic, we'd all be alarmed because we know that that's going to affect every corner of the house and eventually destroy it. And we need to be thinking like that. But I think, global warming is a hard thing to get our arms around, literally. We know the Earth's getting hotter, but how fast and what can we do about it? It just seems overwhelming. And I think a good thing to focus on is what's happening with wild animals and their homes. These are homes that we share, wild habitats. And because they are indicators really of what's happening to Earth, to our ecosystems. Rhinos, tigers, elephants, bears, so many other species we don't even think about that are starting to slide toward extinction. These are warning signs, huge warning signs. These are indicators, balloons that have gone up showing us that ecosystems are starting to unravel. So everything we can do to protect these wild animals has a positive knock-on effect to habitats, ecosystems, the air, water, everything that we all, share with them and each other in this Earth. And I think one of the reasons that we're still seeing things go in the wrong direction, hotter climate, species decline, et cetera, is because the destruction of nature, the extraction of it for commercial purposes, is still much more rewarding than the protection of nature. And I think we need to reverse that equation. And I think one way to do that, we hope, one thing our organization, Freeland, and the campaign we belong to, End Pandemics, is working on, is to make nature protection more rewarding. And we'd like to try to do that through blockchain technology, tokenizing efforts, creating NFTs that allow everybody in the world to participate in, join up and support protective efforts to reward impact. And that's something that we'll continue to work on. I hope it's a lesson we can learn from Earth Day, and I hope we can all join hands much more efficiently through technology. Thanks.
While most of us dream of recreating a cleaner, greener and more beautiful world, the financial system has very different priorities. It relies on infinite exploitation to feed a dream of endless growth. In reality though, our lives depend on one planet with finite resources, and with that planet in the midst of a climate crisis. This disconnect between our financial system and our ecosystem is one we can no longer afford. Seeds offers a solution. A movement that allows us to share financial success, distribute value fairly, and move towards the common vision of a thriving civilization. Seeds gives humanity the tools to reimagine what money can be and do. A financial ecosystem designed to regenerate our planet and all who depend on it. Seeds, all uppercase, is the ecosystem's name, and Seeds, with a capital S, is its currency, one that's already rewarding the people and organizations creating a healthier, more equal and abundant world. Seeds uses cutting-edge technology aimed at creating a more healthy and stable economy. And there are no fees for using it. In fact, the more you exchange, the more value you help create. Value that Seeds reinvests in the planet via grants to community projects, regenerative businesses, and movements. Better still, as the value of Seeds grows, it flows to all members of the Seeds ecosystem, not based on wealth, but on how much they contribute to healing the planet and shaping Seeds itself. That's right, Seeds is a true democracy that lets us all own the change we want to see in the world. Finally, a financial system by the people, for the people, to regenerate our planet. Yes, let's do this.
Well, I'm going to build upon that last question and kind of answer this in what I see as its potential solution. I think we ought to be pragmatic. I think I've started to view terms that we use within the digital asset space, crypto, NFT, as increasingly semantic, because I think, there's become so much hype around these very helpful tools, and we've gotten caught up in various forms of speculative casino capitalism, and we haven't quite allowed these tools to meet their full potential. And so I think that the fundamental first step is less around kind of that tooling and more around first beginning to prototype distributed ways of working together and participatory decision making, as Craig mentioned. And zooming out to the pattern that I see, I think that it's very tempting to denominate everything in terms of fiat currency, even as we move towards more regenerative practices. And nodding to what Vinay shared, I think we ought to create that line between the sacred and profound. What we need to do is build what I think of as kind of a Venus flytrap. How do we build that off ramp for existing capital to flow the trillions in pension funds and endowments that are looking to increasingly support impact efforts, and in parallel over time within that kind of inner sanctum. Start building up these new forms of local and contextually relevant living systems-based value, rather than using a fiat-based stablecoin. What does it look like to start building an S&P for the thriving of people and planet? How do we intermediate and actually buffer these on-the-ground efforts but fuel them through, these emerging nature-based commodities or asset-backed securities and so forth. And then at the same time, within those new systems, begin to reward pro-social behaviors, align incentives towards sort of mutual thriving and regeneration. And so I think it's, to sum that up, I think it's sort of, there's two sides of this. There's that off-ramp of existing systems where I think we do need to be pragmatic and speak the existing language. But then I think we need to really be careful to ensure that as we do build these new systems, we do it with the thought and care that does not bring those previous incentive models in.
All right. This is for Vinay. Basically, every idea, right? Great, has potential for growth, but we always have to check it, right? We always have to hit it with the worst case scenario. So now the worst case scenario that we're facing right now is the war in Russia, right? How can regenerative, not necessarily the worst, but I'm just saying what's on everybody's mind. And so how can regenerative finance solve an issue like this or provide a solution to a situation like this? It is not the worst, but it is worse for the people that are in it.
Yeah, I mean, so from my perspective, the worst problem is not kind of local border wars. Like, it's nasty, it's tragic, it's disastrous, but the number of people being killed is relatively contained compared to, they say, 25,000 people a day that starve to death. Right? It's a distraction. It's kind of a rounding error. It's a tragedy if you're in it, but the total death toll of the Ukrainian conflict so far is roughly the number of people that will literally starve to death in a single day. I find it very hard to care. The real problem, the threat that we face, is structural corruption, right? The global humanitarian project has been basically destroyed by structural corruption. Nobody trusts the United Nations because they turn up, they say they're going to fix it, they spend a bunch of money locally, most of it winds up in the hands of inefficient agencies. A surprisingly large chunk of it lands up in the hands of corrupt politicians. A huge amount of it also sticks in Geneva. Geneva is one of the most expensive cities in the world, and that's running on UN money. What? Right? And that structural corruption also makes people very unwilling to move their money into the hands of regenerative projects. Well, we could put it into this regenerative project, but actually that means, 10 or 20% of it is going to be embezzled by the local partners. Some of it's going to wind up in the hands of corrupt politicians. They're going to have to pay a bunch of bribes. The agencies in Geneva that oversee the money will take 15% for writing a report because it'll be two guys on a white Land Rover that drive 300 miles and stand around for a day taking pictures of something. And, all of this stuff together gives the impression that there is so much friction and so much corruption that nobody really trusts these systems to carry the money. And that has pretty much destroyed faith in humanitarianism over decades, to the point where ordinary people are very reluctant to put their money into charities that are going to go out there and save people's lives because they just don't believe they're going to get the returns. The less wrong folks and I'm trying to remember what the word I'm looking for here is, the philanthropic arm of less wrong, the thing that's to give well and all these kind of things, have really attempted to clean up the, charitable processes to the point where you say, okay, this charity will save one life for $5,000. They've got statistics to show they put out this many bed nets and this was a reduction in malaria. You kind of think if I give them 10 grand, I'm saving 2 people's lives, and you trust that the ratio of lives saved to money donated is about accurate. That is the kind of precision that we need for ReFi. We need to be able to show you what you're getting for your dollar, and we especially need to be able to show you that no parasitic wretch is living off that process in a way that is outside the terms of the deal. And let me tell you, like, as somebody that worked in the aid transparency business for a while, it is practically impossible for aid transparency charities to remain clean because the structural corruption and the systemic issues make it almost impossible to tell the truth at all times without getting kicked out of the business. And this is where the blockchain becomes the sharpest of all double-edged swords, because we can absolutely verify that somebody put this piece of information on the chain at this time and vouched that it was true. But the question is, when they lie, are we going to be able to follow up and either get the money back or kick them out of the business? Because if we don't have the ability to detect fraud and enforce against fraud in this international, multi-jurisdiction, multi-actor kind of, complex cooperation space, if we can't keep that space clean, what's going to happen is that ReFi will wind up sidelined and the money will stay in the black economy. It will just continue to destroy the world, because at least when it's over there embodied as a bunch of coal-fired power plants and coal mines, at least there you could track the money and you know where every penny goes, right? So the need to handle the money with absolute precision and the need to fight like hell against structural corruption, particularly in partner organizations in developing countries where the money is being sunk, that's the real frontier on this thing. And the technology is half of that. But the other part of it has to be a very, very different style of operations. I know that there's a lot of emotive storytelling to open the purses of the donor organizations or the people who are funding, ReFi projects. I know there's a lot of tendency to come out there with, pictures of baby seals and, empty buckets and all the rest of this kind of humanitarian marketing bullshit. But on the back end of that, there has to be something which is literally like random controlled trials in medicine, right? You need a culture which is, we are going to track every penny. We're going to try different techniques. We're going to compare them against each other. And we're going to treat every single aspect of this process as if somebody's life depends on it, because it does. And Geneva never managed that, right? The existing humanitarian infrastructure never managed that. ReFi on the blockchain is another chance to change the culture of helpers into being a culture which watches every penny because lives depend on it.
We have Derek Trowbridge with Soil Carbon Management, based in Sonoma County, California. Welcome, Derek. How are you doing?
Hey, Moots. Hey, thank you. I'm good. I appreciate being here.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. Now, today is Earth Day, and we are celebrating our home, our Mother Earth. What does Earth Day mean to you?
To me, it means a celebration. I work on the earth in agriculture every day, and I like Earth Day because it brings that out to other people who don't do that. It's more of a message, into their life, when typically if you're just in an office, you don't really work with the earth, you're inside.
Right. And so can you tell the people what project are you working on currently that goes in line with the theme of the day, Earth Day?
Yeah, absolutely. So to me, what we're doing is, as you know, California has been burning up too many fires over these last 5 years. And so we're using a byproduct of that, which is what they call fire fuel load management, to try to eliminate some materials. And that puts wood chips on a truck. And we use those wood chips to inoculate them with fungi. And we get a product that goes on the soil, heals the soil heals the plants, farmer does better, and in the end we sequester carbon out of the atmosphere.
Nice. And so, if I may ask, how did you get into that?
That's a great question. So I have a small winery called Old World Winery. It's a natural winery. There's actually a movie called Living Wine coming out next month that we're in on that. And over a period of 12 years, I was trying to resuscitate 120-year-old vines that my great grandfather planted.
Right.
And that's what started using this material. So it's
Uh-huh.
12 years of R&D, and then we just finally made it its own company because we know that the climate needs healing and someone's got to help.
Oh, awesome. And so I appreciate all that you are doing to help our planet. And I would love to have some of that wine if you can send some to
Yeah.
Tulsa, right?
Yeah, we'll get
But
some to Tulsa.
right, if we only have a few short minutes with you, if you could leave some parting words with anybody that's watching this, somebody that's tuned into our channel, they don't know how to get involved yet into saving our planet, what would you tell them on your perspective? How can they save our planet?
That's a great question. You know, they can just get organics on the ground. If they have a backyard, just get some ground cover, stops the water loss, it adds carbon. It's a great place to grow some crops. Try planting seeds and growing them. That's really the best thing any person can do, is just start growing stuff. It'll bring you a whole different idea of what the world is if you're not doing it already.
Awesome. So basically, just grow some stuff. You have some piece of land, grow some garden, grow some plants, grow some trees, and we're building the soil, and we're also helping carbon removal from the atmosphere. Is that right?
That's right. That's the best way to go. And putting more carbon on the soil is the key. Not tilling it. You can do it without doing any work. You just need some compost, mulch, that kind of thing. Start with that.
Awesome. Derek, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate all that you're doing. I will wait for the wine from Sonoma County.
Yeah,
And,
you bet, man. Thank you.
I hope to see you soon. Stay tuned for more from Vinay, Katelyn, and Craig.
There was this moment I was sailing across the Atlantic, and it's been really, really powerful experience. And I closed my eyes and I thought, how amazing if I just had some dolphins show up right now. And lo and behold, they did. But it was one of the most fascinating and engaging moments I had of deep connection.
All right, so let me ask you again. Take, for example, I'm from a third world country. That's where I was born. And the way of doing business is you have to pay somebody off. So there is a regenerative project on ground that is actually trying to do good. They are actually ready to do good. They are primed. Their intentions are pure. But to be able to get the permit to do it, they got to pay off a political figure, right? That's
Yes,
the way
sir.
business is done.
That's how it runs.
How does regenerative finance address this? In other words, do you understand that that could be the way of business over there? You're still doing a project, but you have to pay off somebody, or do you just subtract yourself from this project? How do you address such a situation?
So
That's a real life scenario.
Two choices, right? And it is the real life scenario. This is the reality of the world, right? Here's the deal. So there are two choices. The first approach is that you pay and you document the fact that you've paid. The accounting is honest and it says pay off to government department to get permit, $25,000. And then what happens is the funder organizations are like, did I just see pay off to government department in your records? Yeah, we spent some of your donated money paying off the government department because otherwise 100,000 people wouldn't have toilets. Take it or leave it, right? And this requires tearing down the veil between the funding organizations who want to pretend that every single penny is spent on exactly what they think it's going to be spent on, and there's no slippage, there's no error, there are no mistakes, and everything is perfect. And the implementation organizations who are constantly lying to funders because otherwise the funders stop giving them money. Everybody knows that everybody's lying at that interface in the existing humanitarian system, and that is not going to change unless somebody changes it. So option one is you pay and you document. And then the donor organizations have to grow the hell up and accept that this is how the world works, or they have to change it. Model one. Model two is you don't pay. And there's been a lot of this in India, right? I mean, there's a whole thing of India having like 0 rupee notes, which are used for paying bribes. Somebody asks for a bribe and you hand them literally a paper envelope filled with 0 rupee notes. Apparently this makes you really popular. And in that trajectory, you're just like, look, if you want to get access to the money, we'll pay fair rates, right? We may even overpay. We might pay people really well, 20% above average wages, but we're not going to pay a single penny in bribes. End of discussion. That's it. Take it or leave it. And this is something where there is no right answer, right? It's going to be case by case, and it's going to rely on extremely skilled in-country operators that are capable of implementing either solution 1 or solution 2, depending on what the donor money will tolerate. But, you know, I am not going to disguise this. This is like the worst problem in the world. This is a problem on the level of doctors covering for other doctors in medical malpractice suits. This is the gory, horrific, real world end. And all of these projects live or die by their ability to handle that grim reality in a way which has some moral integrity, because if you don't, you wind up as Geneva.
This is how the world operates. And if we come in with a solution, we need to know that this is what we're going to run into, and we need to address it at that point. And so,
I mean, I'll tell you the truth, I still feel naive about this stuff, right? You know, right. I saw it secondhand, I saw it as a bureaucrat. For the people that are actually standing on the ground with a backhoe digger trying to get projects funded, you know, their knowledge of these systems must be 50 million times mine. You know, I've had just the barest glance in contact, but, you know, I really want to communicate, like, this is where it lives or dies.
Right.
And we are not the experts.
So, Craig, what do you believe is the future for regenerative finance in the next 3 to 5 years?
It's a great question. And I think part of the future also lies in things that are, well, slightly, but not completely outside of regenerative finance's control. I think we've spoken a lot about this sort of, and so I'll relay it specifically to the thing that's getting the most amount of press these days, which is carbon offsets and credits, the voluntary carbon market. It's sort of one of the things that ReFi has been able to begin to tackle more immediately. And the thing that is going to hold it back is a robust, verifiable supply of carbon offsets and credits. Much of the supply that is being brought on chain is older, lower quality, but to ReFi's credit, what we are doing, or what ReFi is doing, is giving people an easier, more transparent way to interact with this. So, like, one, we have to build out, as we mentioned earlier, the ability for many people to sort of be able to interact with this, be able to offset. We need to enable institutions to get comfortable with offsetting and buying credits and buying biodiversity credits on chain, right? Like, if you tell someone, you know, like Walmart, that they need to open wallets and sort of deal with their own custody of digital currency, like, there's an education that's required for companies that are incredibly bureaucratic. So, like, that is one potential hurdle, and if we can address that, we've done a really good job. So that's on one side, and the other side is the supply side. We need, like, transparent, verifiable, high quality supply of credits in order for this to be a market that flourishes and sees its potential, rather than just become, another way for people to trade back and forth and try and, like, play more of a, play the quote unquote stock game or the DeFi game that has been very lucrative in the past. But if we're trying to, really make real change, those are kind of two of the big things that I see. So in 3 to 5 years feels like a long time, because, as we know, timing is literally of the essence, but hopefully we can tackle that by then.
All right, so I have one last question for all three of you, and it's basically this. What is, in the work that you're doing, what is the key obstacle that you're facing right now? And if someone is out there watching that could potentially lend a hand, make a connection, and something like that, what is it, and how could they possibly help you move forward in your work? Let's start with Katelyn.
All right, I'll answer that broadly and specifically. Every minute I'm seeing resources that are just falling through. It feels like it's just falling through a sieve because we don't yet have the transparency that's required. There's a lot of folks that are trying to address what I think are, I mean, agreeing with Craig that there's both a supply side and a demand side solve that's required, yet at the same time, we're so many miles away from the level of sort of transparent participatory measurement that is required. There's still folks waving their arms around saying, how can we possibly mobilize quickly enough to solve all of these crises? And we're not pointing at the answers that are already there, that are perpetually under-resourced, that are disconnected from one another, that are disconnected from the resources that they need, that are still spending, a third or more of their time applying for funding or working on reporting. And so I think the fundamental first solve, whether we're looking at supporting, the connection of 15,000 smallholder farmers in West Africa with buyers of commodities, or helping to support interagency collaborations on the ground in refugee crisis. It's that first layer. It's I think we need to quickly mobilize the remaining funding that is required to build these infrastructures and get them adopted by as many on the ground efforts as we can, as quickly as possible. Specifically right now, again, whether it's in Ukraine or whether it's frontline indigenous efforts in the Amazon, we have folks that are, desperate for the tools. We see it every day. They're calling us. We're not even done building our tool yet. And they're saying, how can I possibly leverage what you've built? And so, yeah, we need resources to get as many folks as we can on and working with one another and measuring their efforts and connecting them with these resources as quickly as possible.
All right. How about Craig?
Sure. Building, everything that Katelyn said is 100% true. So I don't want to, re-go over a lot of those issues. I think like the two things that I see is like, we need people, and we really need climate people. And I've said this, I said this earlier, in the introduction, is like, I want climate experts to realize that this is an area where they should spend their time and energy. It does two things. One, it provides an amount of credibility and legitimacy to this area, which is that people who are climate experts want to spend their time here. And two, it will allow for us not to make many of the same mistakes that happened in climate tech 1.0 when the kind of bottom fell out in 2007 to 2009. I acknowledge that there are differences in, technology. There's technology adoption curves. There's, we've increased, a lot has changed, but there are still mistakes that can be made, and there are learnings that we need to make sure to keep in mind when we're tackling this problem again, that I sometimes fear that we will miss if we ignore at our peril those who are experts and who have been through this in the first go around. The second thing that we need is, and like very concrete and specific, is like, we need people from large institutions and large companies to realize that this is where they should be sort of look to transacting and look to support. I think there is an ideal, but we do have to understand in many ways, as Vinay mentioned earlier, with respect to sort of the payoffs that you might make, we also have to understand the world in which we live in and the world in which we sort of interact. Like if the Fortune 100 companies decide that they don't want to participate, then we're in big trouble because they're our biggest emitters. So we need to make sure that they're convinced that this is an area where they should spend their time too. So talent and institutional buy-in.
Thank you. Vinay, you got an answer for us now?
Yeah, I would like a really good, solid, fair trade gold project in probably Africa, maybe South America. I mean, I spent a lot of time in the aid world, and I basically am building tooling for handling high value goods with complex trust profiles. So I work on things like fine wine. This is materium, right? We're in the day job. I work on things like wine. I work on gold. I work on fine art. And the reason I'm working in those markets is because there's 2 trillion a year of counterfeiting, and everybody benefits from getting rid of the counterfeiting. It's not a complicated case where you're dealing with international development, where a lot of people are benefiting from the fraud, and maybe some of it is necessary because they don't get, for example, a decent salary from their government. Those things are very, very complicated. What I'm building is international contract enforceability machinery that can reach across national borders, use evidence collected on chain, and then do meaningful enforcement with financial consequences for bad actors. And once that system is really fully up and running, and I would trust it with other people's lives, then it will be something that is suitable for use in aid, in international development, and in kind of ReFi type projects. I really would want much more like proven case law to show that it works internationally before I would want to start putting mission critical stuff on it. But a decent fair trade gold project where somebody has, they're mining gold in some place like the Amazon, and they're doing it in a way that is ecologically perfect, being able to document that and prove it, and maybe get them a 20-30% higher price per ounce than they would get if they were going out to the general market. That kind of very, very concrete stuff, if people know extraordinarily clean, documented green projects in politically risky areas like gold, where there is an enormous amount of fraud, doing things like taking gold from conflict zones and laundering it into what are meant to be clean gold supply chains, I would be very interested in projects like that. If anybody has partner organizations that they're working with that they're doing this kind of stuff, that are absolutely squeaky clean and sterile, and we can then document that and help them get higher prices, love to work on that kind of stuff. And with all of these things, it's always access to capital, right? The more access to capital we have, the faster we can build the tooling, but everybody is in that position. That's why we're here.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, guys. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope you have a wonderful day and success in every endeavor that you got your hands in. Can DAOs be used as a key tool in financing environmental projects? When we come back, we're going to be talking to Joachim of Hyper DAO and Martin with Vlinder Climate. Stay tuned.
When you think of how when the conquistadors encountered the New World, and they went to the Amazon and saw it only as wild jungle, and they didn't realize that 20% or so was actually agroecology, exquisitely nurtured, designed over millennia, self-sustaining. It just looked like a mess to them. And of course, what do you do when you see a mess? Well, you clear it out, cut it down, create these rectilinear agricultural systems that destroy the planet. So it's interesting how we're returning to this knowledge. In a sense, humanity has always held, and also trying to perhaps redesign our collaborative methodologies and our social systems to imitate ecologies, where everything has its place, everything has its purpose and its interaction, and there is a balance of things that might appear to be poisonous but actually have medicine in them. It's an old saying, in the poison is the medicine. Right? It just depends on the balance and the amount and how it's used. So to look at everything as having a place and having a use and a balance.
Awesome. So I'm going to take it a little bit basic because I'm coming from a world where people don't know what DAOs are. So if you can give a basic description of what a DAO is, that way people that are watching this can kind of get a glimpse of this reality. So that's for you, Joachim.
Sure. So DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. I know that doesn't help a lot, but you can sort of dissect it a little bit, right? You can see, okay, there's a decentralized portion of that that's not centralized, right? So it's kind of the opposite. It's like another way of working together, of coordinating things within a network, right? So that's the decentralization part. And there are actually many forms of how you can get organized in a decentralized way. Right, with hubs, with mesh networks, with all kinds of things, but it is decentralized. So there's no top-down structure. There's no hierarchy really present in these decentralized organizations. So that makes them really different. And it's autonomous, right? So that means you can push sort of anything that's happening within the organization towards the edges, right? It doesn't have to be, from one person, from one department. It can happen anywhere in this network, right, that you're putting together. But it has, and that's interesting, sort of the last the O stands for organization, right? So there are boundaries, right? And there are ways to say, hey, this is still an organization, right? This is not an open network where anybody can jump in, jump out, but there's something happening within that. And there are different flavors of the DAOs too. I mentioned Haifa is doing this 3rd generation DAO now. We actually call it the DHO or DO, which stands for Decentralized Human Organization. So we're trying to bring sort of the human back at the center of this whole decision network that you're putting together, this kind of agreement machine. But it's people who make these agreements, right? It's people that are there, and that's the space where you create the trust for everyone to get started on these things. So that for me is this new form of organization, right? The DAO, the DO, however you want to call it, and really becoming, and we'll probably get to that later, even a new organizational form, right? You can now register a DAO in Wyoming as a DAO LLC. So very interesting developments happening right now, very rapidly too. This is a space that's fast evolving, and every day there's something new happening here.
Awesome. So if I can rephrase it just for comment, it's a new organization. Decentralized basically means there is, like you said, no top-down structure. But it also gives people the opportunity to say, I'm in Uganda, I'm in Israel, I'm whatever, I can contribute to this organization at my own capacity. And I don't necessarily have to be a CEO. I could be a guy who is into tech, or is into business, or is into music, but I can still be part of this organization and still affect change.
Precisely. It's a virtual organization. It's an internet organization. You don't have to have physical locations anymore, and you pull your teams together from across the entire planet, right? There's no geographic boundaries. Politics usually stay out of this space, right? And you pull people in because they're good, because you're getting to know them, right? Because you're establishing these deeper roots and these deeper connections here. So that's really an interesting aspect of the way of building the DAOs.
So that kind of answers the next question, but I want you to expand on it, Martin. So how do you see DAOs bringing people together around the world to effect change in the environmental projects?
Yeah, great question. And first, like Joachim, I really got your excitement around DAOs, and I think there's so much opportunity to create inside of what that is. So to your question, how can DAO help us tackle what we're faced with in the environment? I think that the way that I think of DAOs is that DAOs it's an organization, and what is an organization? It's a group of people, and as a group of people, we're trying to achieve something together. We have a shared objective, so we can kind of expand that to my family. We have an intention, we have an objective here to have a great time, as we hear on the Azores, and as a company like Linda Climate, we have an intention to really unlock funding and unlock as much carbon sequestration as possible. That's what we're up to as a company. But then also, what are we up to as a human species together on this planet? We all really want to have a happy home. We all want to live happily together, thrive, all of us together on this planet. And essentially, a DAO is the way how to enable that. I think I don't think necessarily DAOs are the only way to do that, but I think it's a way that will help us do that. And DAOs kind of sets out structures for how we operate together, like an agreement of how we operate together. And this is how I think of DAOs. So what I think DAOs can really be powerful in kind of contributing to the way we're tackling climate change is creating agreements on smaller or on bigger scale that will all have us operate and contribute into a greater vision that is right now. For example, let's say we want to tackle and solve climate change. That's one way of thinking about it. So I'm not super specific. I'm talking quite conceptual here on a higher level. But please fire away with questions or anything if you want me to go in a more specific direction here.
So you mentioned carbon sequestration, right? Basic carbon removal. And so how do DAOs play a role in this? What is the future for DAOs in carbon removal?
Right. So I think before it is that we take kind of DAO as a solution to that, what I would like to do is just kind of take a step back and look at carbon removal. What is that, and how do we solve that? What's the challenge, and how do we solve it? So for me, carbon removal is one of the two things that we simply have to do to win the battle against climate change. The other thing is a reduction, reducing the greenhouse gas emissions from our day-to-day business or just consumption as a human being. So it's actually two things. It's so simple what we have to do. So that's great. That's great news. Reducing most of the times that's inside of what we're doing as human or as organizations, as companies. It's almost core to the business because it's like business efficiencies in many sense. Carbon removal is almost 100% of the time completely separate to the core of what a business does. Because the way in which we sequester carbon, the way we remove carbon from the atmosphere, we do that with different types of technologies. And nowadays, the cheapest technology that we know of to do that, that's called photosynthesis. You may have heard of it. It's a really cool technology, and it's been developed under many, many thousands of years. And that's like in most of the projected scenarios, that takes like a huge chunk. I think it probably ranges, but most of the time it sits around like 50% of the projected scenarios. We're gonna have to really scale up our nature-based solutions in sequestering and removing carbon from the atmosphere. So I'm just gonna talk about that one. That's the perspective we're taking as Vlinder as well. So okay, how do we enable as many nature-based solutions projects to suck carbon out of the atmosphere? Well, for me, the biggest challenge that there is that nature doesn't grow in a day. It takes actually a lot of time, which means that we need funding now, really early, in order to grow the forest, grow the biomass that then sucks the carbon out of the atmosphere, stores it in the biomass. And that's the challenge. I think that's the core challenge that we have right now today for carbon removal as human beings. That is moving capital, moving funding into carbon removal projects. And that's what it is that we're up to at Vlinder. And one of the things that we also realized as Vlinder is that we as a company, we don't think we should own that. Actually, we think that if it is that we can create an agreement for how we can operate together as human beings on this planet, how we can operate in taking funding and putting it into nature-based solutions, if we can create an agreement that provides a structure for how we do that everybody can own and everybody can contribute with, wow, this could just be amazing. Because we don't want to just take all of that value and just claim that as ours. We think, in fact, that's for all of us to own and for all of us to contribute to. So this is how we're thinking about it, and that's and that I think is a cool case for how a DAO can contribute to the challenges we face with the environment, specifically with carbon removal.
Awesome. And so, Joachim, do you think DAOs will replace traditional environmental organizations? Because we're all fighting the same fight. But traditional organizations have a very basic, narrow pathway that they're taking. But with the DAOs, I can see the possibility of people around the world coming together and solving the crisis better. Do you think DAOs could completely replace traditional organizations, or do you think there has to be a blend between the two?
Yes, that's a great question. And for me, this is sort of a transition into this new kind of way of organizing, way of coordinating, way of finding people. DAOs are still a very new concept, right? Of course, they're big in the crypto space, but if you go mainstream, you don't find a lot, people talking about DAOs. Although I have to say, New York Times 2 weeks ago published a whole new section on what is this cryptocurrency space and what are DAOs. There was a specific section on that too. So I was surprised to see that. So it's rapidly becoming mainstream, I think. Once that happens, people will try to be they're more curious to find out what is actually happening in these new DAO spaces. What is different from my organization that I have today be that a startup, a co-op, be that a traditional corporate hierarchical structure, right? What is different here? What makes them tick, and how can we try this out? The nice thing about DAOs is you can just jump into this game and just try it out. Open up a DAO. It takes you, some cases, minutes, you have it up and running, days to define who's actually on the team, what are the boundaries. If you go into more sociocratic structures, what are the circles within the DAO? What are the roles that you want to define? How do you compensate and reward people? But all of this, and that's so interesting, is more or less template based, right? You can say, okay, there are these reward structures, there are these standard circles inside the organization. Just download that stuff into the DAO and then invite people and get to the real work, right? And this is what makes it so interesting. You can get off the boring stuff can be off the table fairly quickly, right? And we get into these agreements, right? Maybe there are a few policies you put on top of that. That's fine, right? But then get to the real crux of it work, right? And find out what the problems is, and then see where we take that vehicle, right? That DAO, which direction are we taking that next? What you're actually building here is not isolated sort of companies, that compete against each other. They create sort of ecosystems now, and this is much more about co-opetition, right? This is about working together, sharing, exchanging the experience and the knowledge we've gained, right? And then also increasingly getting into sharing, exchanging the value we're creating, right? Because you recognize the other players, right? You are together with them in these spaces, and you can see that certain products and services, maybe coming from that direction because they have done it for a long time, helping others, to move ahead, because we're all in the same boat here. This is one big ecosystem that we all want to lift up, right, and strengthen, really, right? And that's the idea of a lot of these ecological spaces, that we come together to help the planet, to help people to live happy lives in villages, right? And to understand what the real problems are, and diving deeper, right? That's kind of the mission in these spaces.
We have Gabby with Global Digital Asset and Cryptocurrency Association. How you doing, Gabby?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on today.
Well, thank you for being here. So now I got to ask, today, Earth Day, what are you currently working on that you're excited about?
So we're excited about some of the work that we're doing with our cryptocurrency mining group, and trying to advance environmental sound practices around cryptocurrency mining, helping to advance understanding about some of the opportunities of incentivizing green and renewable energy that can be coupled with Bitcoin and crypto mining, and also trying to expand a lot of our members' awareness about the importance of sustainability reporting and sustainable business practices. So it's a really exciting day, and we're very excited to be able to share it with you all.
All right. So if someone is watching this and they are, let's say, just getting into cryptocurrency, or they've been in a while, but they're not too deep, what can you tell them? How can they practice good mining, or what are good practices?
Sure. So for crypto mining, a lot of it depends on the energy usage that you're taking. So from that standpoint, looking to balance and blend, renewable solar, wind, and also any types of stranded energy. The crypto mining and cryptocurrency industry itself has been working very hard to try to advance sustainable business practices and environmental soundness. I think, one of the key pieces that we look at is the promotion of ESG, or sustainable business activities, and environmental E is obviously at the forefront of that. As a lot of these businesses continue to go public, this will be an increasing area of scrutiny and concern. And above and beyond that, a lot of our business owners are people of good integrity who are really trying to do the right thing. And so this is just a really great day to kind of gather everyone around and try to celebrate those firms that have been able to move forward progressively, and also to try to cheerlead and cheer on those that continue to try to improve and advance.
Awesome. So now, one last question. If we can forecast into the future, 3 years from now, it's Earth Day. If we all came together and did what we're supposed to do, what could it look like then? What does cryptocurrency in that world look like for everybody?
Well, I think if we all came together and we tried to advance crypto mining, we tried to advance cryptocurrency around financial inclusion, access to finance, and also just helping to build out businesses that have strong corporate governance, I think ideally what we would have is a much better world where people have a greater degree of access to financial resources, are much more involved in the formal sector, and where we have a much higher degree of equitable economic growth and shared prosperity worldwide.
That would be a beautiful world to live in. Let's hope we actually join hands, build this future together, and come to make it a reality for everybody. I do appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on, for taking a few minutes out of your time. Let me let you go. Have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day. Martin, this one's for you. Joachim had mentioned tokens. So how do you see NFTs and tokenized currency funding these environmental projects? Is that the wave of the future?
I think that we can get moving a lot faster with NFTs and with tokens compared to traditional finance, TradFi. So there's definitely a lot of benefits with that. Also, some of the challenges that we can acknowledge in the market right now is the adoption of decentralized finance and sort of just the knowledge around that compared to the users who would go on NASDAQ, for example, and trade there. So that's some of the things that we're thinking about, because I think, like, it's really a planetary challenge, climate change. We're not going to solve it by ourselves, any of us, even if we put all our efforts together, all of us here in this room here, and we can get our entire countries behind. That's not enough. Like, we got to collaborate as an entire planet. So how do we do that? Well, we got to think about how do we enable anybody to participate. And right now there's just a challenge with NFTs and tokens, where not anybody has access, or they have, but they may not have the expertise to, and some traditional finance provides that. So I think it's hard to say. I think to come back to your original question, whether tokens and NFTs are going to be the way in which we're going to be funding these projects moving forward into the future, I think there's a lot of benefits with that as well. And currently there's also challenges with that. So will probably be some sort of hybrid model, I think. Eventually, I think we should always just focus on how do we solve the problem in the best possible way. And for us, the problem is really bringing funding into these projects. And it will probably be some sort of hybrid model to begin with, I think. And then we'll see how the future unfolds.
Do you have any examples of really successful DAOs that you can give?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, this is an exploding space, and what you see happening nowadays is a lot of work on the ground, right? So these are villages, eco villages, new ways of creating farms, ecological farms that experiment a lot, right? But sort of the virtual layer is kind of just building up now. There are a few organizations who are trying to do that, but we're just getting this technology ready now to actually say, hey, let's invite them into these spaces and connect them, right? So we're more sort of at a meta level here to say who's out there, right? And give you the vehicle, the enabler, right? To say, yes, you're already doing this great work on the ground. Now let's introduce maybe a regenerative currency. So you can step away from fiat currency, right? And use that new token as a representation of the value you create on the ground. So it's a gradual sort of move from the extractive system that we have now towards more of a system of abundance, of recognizing that we're all there in the same boat. And then building these technologies. And I think that there's a lot, in the DAO space, if you follow that, there's so many sort of different approaches now, from investment clubs, that kind of getting into Wall Street 2.0 to organizations who really want to build villages and see what do we need, what kind of people do we need on board to invite them, what kind of onboarding processes, what kind of ecological processes and maps do we need to build to make that all work. And that's just another space. And I can give you another example. When we explored the Wyoming DAO, and a colleague of mine went there, and there's actually a bird species called the sage grouse, and that's a protected species. And suddenly there was the idea of why not connecting these habitats to DAOs and these gas companies who sort of do the extractive work there on the ground, but they have to pay a price for that, right? And they're actually required to support these bird habitats, very much like what you're doing, Martin, with carbon credits and carbon extraction, right? That applies readily for these kind of habitats too. So we can form a DAO around that, have a land, that's now part of the sage grouse habitat, right? And then they need to sort of come to you and say, yep, we want to protect the bird. We're also doing some extraction, over here, and then have that exchange, right? Have that, again, that value exchange to protect the bird and increase these habitats, right? Which is good for everyone. And at the same time, sort of confine the other work that is happening in the more traditional industries there. So lots and lots of opportunities, I think, that are still waiting, to be explored.
So, society as a whole, the world as a whole, prices agriculture wrong, prices food wrong, because it abuses labor, it abuses the land, and it pollutes the downstream. The price of the tomato is wrong, as we all know. There's no external costs that are being charged to McDonald's for feeding everybody French fries, burgers, and ketchup. I have to figure out a different way for our farm to be economically successful, and it comes through teaching. It comes through building a community that says, hey, I'm glad that this exists. And it has to be people that are willing to pay more money for that tomato. And my wife jokes at me, she got this book when we were early in our marriage called The $64,000 Tomato. It was a fun book and everything, but I think my tomatoes really are $64,000 tomatoes.
All right, so mine is a left field kind of question here, right? So with environmental projects and carbon sequestration and all of these projects, they're coming in from the aspect of the developed world realizing that we need to do something different. We need to save the environment, right? But there is somebody that's on the ground. I'm from Uganda and my mom is from the village. So there is somebody over there who lives off of less than 30 cents US dollars per day, right? And so their challenge is, if a government, let's say a foreign government comes in and says, we want to tear down your forest and we'll pay you $1,000 a day. How can we combat that? Because I think that is, to me, the biggest challenge. How can we turn a problem, because now they're going to cut down, let's say we're using mangroves, for example, to remove carbon, right? And they come in and say, I have a piece of land, I make 33 cents a day, but here's a company that says, I'll tear it down for $1,000 a day. How can we fix that? Because that's really what's happening. The people on the ground have have a fiscal need, right? To take their kids to school, to pay for medicine, to do all of that stuff. And it is a corporation that's coming in and saying, we can fix that for you. That person on the ground is not looking 10 years into the future, right? Or 20 years. They're just fixing their need right now. So is there a way that we can, here's a problem, and here's also a problem on the other side. We have the long-term solution. How can we bridge these two together to know that we're actually solving the same problem, but you can also solve your financial problem on the ground? Both of you can take it away.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in, Joachim. I'd love to hear from what you think also. But I think it's a real challenge, and it's something we gotta think about, because I think we as human beings, we are in action when something occurs for us as an opportunity. That's why we do things. And if you're talking about your people in Uganda, for example, who's faced with an opportunity of, oh, I can actually go and like sell my rights to my land for $1,000 and get a quick kind of cash check here and just kind of go and have a good time. And then, a couple of years later, I might be paying that credit card bill. We got to make sure that that there is something else there in place, that there's another opportunity that also for them occurs for them as an opportunity. And in the end of the day, I think that we gotta communicate, really. That's really what's required, because before you, as somebody in Uganda faced with such an opportunity, before you can make a good sound decision, you gotta know the full picture, and you gotta act with integrity, like but both parties, and that requires communication and kind of laying out the impacts into the future. I'm not sure that any company who want to come in and just kind of abuse this situation here would do that. So that may not be a solution, but then at least kind of coming back to having another alternative, that's really good. That's something that we're thinking about a lot. And for all the mangrove afforestation projects that we're doing, we're actually giving away 50% of the carbon credits. We're giving that to the local community. And we do that because we think first of all, we think that works. That's the right thing to do. And we think that works for the local people. And also it provides sort of a long-term interest for the locals in maintaining the mangroves, because maybe not exactly as the opportunity you kind of pointed out here with $1,000 of opportunity, but there's always the alternative of go and chop down mangrove, go and burn it and cook food over it and survive for another day. Like that's sort of a day-to-day decision to be made. If it is that we're starting to kind of acknowledge the value of the mangroves and kind of compensating the locals for that, I think that's something that can really make that shift, and that will also have them care for the mangroves into the future as well. So that's something that we're doing. We think that's really important, because for most verification standards for how you verify carbon credits, most of them they don't look for an eternity into the future. They only look a certain number of years. We want to make this as the carbon sequestration and the permanence of that. We want to make that as eternal as possible, and we think that's by education, by communication, and by really involving the locals, so that it's really a win for them as well, that the mangroves stay. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it, what we're thinking about it here at Blender. I'd love to hear what you think, Joachim.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Martin. Yeah, it's about caring. It's about involving the locals. You're absolutely right. It's about tapping into the communities that have been there for such a long time, right? They know the land, they know the people, they knew how it was even before, generation or 2 generation back, how the land was at that time. It's bringing the people together at this table. And for me, this is a shift now that's possible to just having a community that's about the liveliness towards a community that can actually support livelihoods, right? So we can actually, for the first time, say, we can support you. We can define a role for you inside the community. We can provide you with the currency, the support, and the meaningfulness that you would lose otherwise if you are in a game that's what Jordan calls game A versus game B, right? So you can be in that game A. You can try to extract and do all the advantages, trying to pull that for yourself, right? Kind of a selfish, self-centered approach. But the community gives the opposite. It gives sort of the collective feel. You're part of something bigger. You're part of a space that is evolving, and you want to be recognized in that space for doing the good work that others are doing. And now we have sort of the tool sets, and we have the provisions to say, we can provide these livelihoods. We can introduce a new kind of currency, let's say, and we've done that. So, and we went to Kenya to tap into some of these communities there to see how people sort of take a new type of currency like seeds and apply that to the project and the work on the ground. Is that even possible, right? And then you get into this whole mindset of what is currency, what is money, right? How linear is sort of the traditional money, that comes in, flows through, and leaves the community immediately, versus sort of these new type of circular currencies, right? And it's not a new mindset too. People have been thinking about these circular currencies and circular economies for decades, right? And there are models out there that we can now tap into and map that into the tokenomics that we're building with these new kind of cryptocurrencies, right? So the technology is there, but the mind shift still needs to shift towards what do you mean by a circular currency, right? What does it mean if the value stays within the community, right? So you have people growing food, you have others harvesting the food that goes right back into the community. There's a lot of barter trade going on, right? I have stuff that I don't need to store and keep for myself at home. I can share that with the community, right? It's the notion of increase these patients so they live on the beginning, Martin, right? We want to create that, and who doesn't want to, right? And then at that point you can get into larger conversations with traditional organizations, right, who are coming into the space, eventually also wanting to help us, or recognizing there's a positive trend here. People support that, and maybe work together with them on say, okay, there's portions of what you want to do that may work together with other stuff that we're working on in the village, right, on the ground. So I think there are many ways and options now. Once the visibility is there, right? Once we see all these dots, showing up on our global maps to say, hey, there's a village over there in Kenya, there's a village over there in Uganda, right? That work together, recognizing the adjacent possible, right? That village has kind of succeeded. Why? Let's ping them. Let's find out why that worked for them, and then maybe replicate some of this and bring that into our village, right? So this rapid application and knowledge exchange is possible through these new networks, right? Something that traditional corporations would never do, right? Because they have their protected capital, right? There's nothing that you can share with them, right? And it's all about exploiting and making a profit in these spaces, right? So it's a new game. It's game B now. We'll try out how that can really work for us.
Design is crucial in every part of business. Designers have a say in how products are made, how they're used, and how they are discarded. When we educate and empower designers in our community, they bring that knowledge and understanding into every business and ultimately throughout society.
At Climate Designers, our purpose is to transform all designers into the innovators, leaders, and effective activists needed to address our climate emergency. Our mission is to empower designers of all kinds to utilize their skills for positive change while building satisfying careers that make an impact on our climate crisis.
Through dialogue with one another and introspection about the design process itself, we're creating a new industry, or at least a new specialty, one that traverses the silos normally dividing different design specialties from one another. We're bringing information into our design process from other fields like behavior science, system science, and ecology.
In doing so, we're empowering designers to confidently carry out design work that goes beyond reducing environmental harm, moving towards improving nature's ability to thrive.
Ultimately, climate designers aim to make humanity a positive impact, working with nature.
Over the last 2 years, we've built an online community with 2,800 plus members and 15 chapters around the world and growing.
We believe there are potential 600 million people worldwide whose economic function is to create new ideas, new technology, and/or create content that can contribute to building a more sustainable, resilient world.
What if every designer were a climate designer?
Climate Designers has illustrated that we're not alone and that collectively we are making a positive impact on the world through design.
I am pitching a sustainability proposal to my employer inspired by the success of other climate designers. We already have the resources needed to create a livable and thriving future on this planet.
Climate design is helping to solve these problems. There needs to be empathy towards nature and its resources. Design plays a very important role in making us more empathetic.
We are climate designers.
Somos diseñadores del clima.
हम सब climate designers हैं.
Kami ay climate designers.
jsme climate designers.
우리는 climate designers입니다.
हम पर्यावरण के designers हैं.
Hi climate designers.
We are climate designers.
Right, I like that, game B. So what do you see is the future for DAOs in the next 3 to 5 years? What do you see is happening?
What do I see is happening for DAOs in the next 3 to 5 years? That's a good question. I think that one of the really powerful things about DAOs is that they enable us to work really efficiently. And I think that generally, if I consider myself as a community, my body as a community, it's a community of cells, it's a community of organs. I have my hands over here, they work well together. And it's like kind of my each and every cell of my body works in agreement with the rest of the body, so that I'm a functioning human being. And if it is that we look at organizations, or even us together, human beings on this planet, once it is that we have one human being starting to work against the objective that we're trying to get to, that's not very helpful for everybody else. So that person would kind of, that would kind of that would be a sort of a disease to the body as a whole. And I think that what DAOs can enable is like sort of the impossibility of such behavior actually starting to manifest because of the agreements and because of the smart contracts and whatnot that would be in place in a DAO. I think it has a lot of potential to unfold like that. And I think that we are, as human beings, we're wired to want to connect. We are successful because of our ability to collaborate. That's how we built the cities we live in today. That's how we're building cars and whatnot. And, like as a single human being, I can't barely, make a matchstick and light a fire, like I don't even have that expertise as a single human being. So really like, DAOs, I think what that can enable is really collaboration at a higher level, which is really elevating what's possible for us as a human species at a higher level. I don't think it's a given. I don't think necessarily DAO just only will do that, because then we're also human beings and we have our egos and that kind of gets in our way sometimes. And I think as with any technology, DAOs has its kind of downsides as well, and that's something that we just gotta be mindful of. And we, as the wielder of the weapon of the technology, we gotta really be responsible ourselves as we are engaging in DAOs. So that's how I would answer that question.
All right, and one last one for you, Joachim. With DAOs, in my mind, we're creating this new economy, a new system that is basically in contrast to the current system and the current economy, right? And so could companies like, I'm not going to name names, but could big conglomerates look at us and look at this new economy and say, how can we take this over? Because I believe it's the way of the future, right? With our children growing up in this system, it's going to be part and parcel of what we're doing. But could these big companies over here say, how can we take this over and basically exploit again? Because their interest is to get territory and to get economy, right? So they could see that this is the new wave. How can we get in there and exploit it and turn it around to make it ours?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. And you can see an example where this is actually already happening, sort of small, these investment style clubs wanting to take over the world, and buying stuff or, having an impact. So that mindset exists already in these spaces. But what is, for me, what is really important is we don't want to sort of fight the existing system, right? Buckminster Fuller said, don't fight it, offer something new that's better than what we have today, right? And then give an opportunity to build a bridge, right? For these organizations that are still in this classic oriented, extractive, top-down oriented mindset, let them try it out, right? See what the difference is. And for me, if you go through this, if you step over the bridge, you transform yourself too, because you're going from a centralized top-down entity towards much more decentralized. There's something that's inherently biased in this new technology, right? As Douglas Rushkoff says, technology is biased. Everything is biased there, right? And so we have built our old system on this old, technology and capitalist mindset of, extracting and growing, right? These new systems have a different bias, right? They're sort of predisposed for, let's explore something bigger. Let's explore something, seeing it as a whole, right? Seeing as, you are part of something that grows together. It's much more organic. And when you go through this transition, when you step over the bridge, I think something happens with you personally, and also with others working together in these spaces. So that for me is the opportunity to show them what is possible on the other side, right? Without being too far away, too esoteric, too different minded that people don't recognize you anymore, but it has to be something that's recognizable and workable, right? So it's a structure preserving transformation, right? So you're going from something that worked in the old world, but now works similarly, but in a whole different context, right? And the purpose is different, the orientation is different, right? The goals are different, and the world around is changing it too, right? So you have to bring all of these factors into consideration here and create this better world, right? Create this next phase in our humanity to say, we're ready to do this, right? Suddenly, there's this phase shift happening, right? I mentioned at the introduction, every 20 years, the internet goes through these phase shifts, right? From decentralized Web 1.0, right? Tim Berners-Lee invents that thing, everybody looks at this, it explodes. Then this contraction phase, 20 years, into centralized companies extracting your data, right? And selling that to the highest bidders. Now again, converting that, inverting that into something that's much more bottom up, right? Where anybody can launch these organizations in no time, but with a different mindset, with an ecosystemic mindset, with a mindset of saying, we are in this together, right? And we recognize each other in these spaces, right? And we build the trust in these spaces. And as soon as some entity comes into this space that is very extractive, right? Or wants to sort of go in there for their own profit, for their own selfish, mind and way of working, you recognize that, and they will be pushed to the edges, right? So they're not really suddenly part of this, and that recognition is an inherent human trait, right? We have that built into our mind, and that's the beauty of this. That goes hand in hand with this new ecology and this new kind of technology we are building together here.
All right, so basically at the core of this new technology, this new economy, the DNA is already structured to recognize those kinds of entities or ideas and kind of put them to the fringe. But at the core, we're going to build this new collaborative effort where we're solving problems together and we're all solving the issues that are on the ground.
That's right? Beautifully said. That's right. It's the DNA, that's built into these new tools. And then we can also take that DNA and give it to the next generation, right? We're building it with HiFi now as a socio-ecological and sort of ecosystemic way to say, you are the parent and you have children, right? You have children DAOs now, and you want to make sure that the child really is born into a world that has everything it needs, right? So all the learnings that we had, right, can be readily transferred into this next generation. But they take it then, and they are autonomous again, right? They take it in whole new directions that you as a parent would never think about, right? We don't know what happens. So we have to sort of let go of that, let's hold on to that control, this space, right? To let's flourish, let's try to experiment. Let's see what happens in the next generation. They know what we've done, right? They have the DNA that we gave them already, but now they can do something else. They build it out after generation, after generation, after generation, right? That's the beauty of it.
Awesome. So now, any last remarks in your field? What would you want the viewers that are watching this, what would you want to leave them with? What is maybe your biggest challenge, or how could they reach out to you or maybe even help you with what you're trying to do? Let's start with Martin.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It wasn't Michael Jackson who said, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look in the mirror and make a change. Yeah, I think what I would invite everybody to do is really to look at themselves and start with themselves and be that change that they want to see in the world. And I think that really what we gotta do is, as individuals, is that we gotta look at, I right now as a human being, I have a choice between where I put my wealth, where I invest my money, and I can invest them into something that I might buy a cooler, bigger car that consumes more fossil fuels, or I can actually downgrade my car and purchase solar panels, and maybe get an electric vehicle or something like that. It may not satisfy my ego or satisfy me and who I am or what I want to do in the same way as the other car. Maybe it does. But I think we are on a day-to-day basis faced with these kind of decisions. And I want to invite everybody to really take a look in the mirror and be that change that you want to see in the world.
Yes, take a look in the mirror. I will do that too. That's great. Yeah, I mean, we're living in difficult times. This is an opportunity for all of us. So we recognize the threats that are coming directly at us, right? So we got to respond to that. We got to try some new pathways. And for me, this is one of these pathways, right? This is one way of finding the others, starting, building new kind of networks, built on trust and reward systems, right? So you're not showing up there as a volunteer any longer. You can actually be rewarded for the work you do. And you have meaningful work, and you work in a context of a circle of a group of people who want to have an impact, right? And we can begin to measure the impact too, all the good work that Martin is doing in that space. The technology is there too to say, yep, you've done that work, right? So let's reward and recognize that. So find each other and go try out these new technologies, right? You've nothing to lose, right? It's all out there, there's still a learning curve. I would say, it's still in, early days for these DAO spaces, right? So we're trying to figure out, still the best way to bring people into that without going through all of these hoops to create your account and manage your keys and all this stuff, right? But we're getting very close now to say it's user friendly enough. I can tell it, to my grandma can start to understand what is happening, that kind of thing. Yes, so we're ready to do this, and let's board these new vehicles. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that journey together, right?
That's awesome. Well, gentlemen, I would like to thank you for your time, taking your time out of your busy schedules to talk to me and talk to the public. The work you're doing is very great. I totally believe in what you are doing, and I'm so happy to have talked to you today, and I want you to have a wonderful day.
Anytime. Thank you.
All the best. Thank you for having us.
You take care.
The major problem today is all the CO2 climate gases we have left in the atmosphere. And here is the solution: trees. The mangrove is a miracle tree, and this is the most efficient machine in capturing CO2 and store it in the ground. The mangrove tree mitigates 5 times more CO2 than other type of trees. One mangrove tree can produce oxygen for 4 people. It grows fast, it's easy to plant, and there is plenty of land to plant mangrove trees. From now on, we know we can move very fast. We can plant more than 1 billion trees within the next 10 years. It's like a miracle when the forest has been restored. Life is coming back. They produce food and shelter for small fish, so we get 50% more seafood in mangrove forest. And when people see that they earn more money from keeping the forest than to cutting down the trees, they will maintain it. And if we don't realize that nature is our future, we have no future. Action is needed immediately. Join us and help us to plant more trees. Hello, are you still there? Kindly give me a few seconds more. I forgot to show you our most cherished picture from the climate park. Wild elephant seeking shelter in the newly planted forest. What a happy moment. See that nature has been restored. Life is back. Join us in this wonderful journey. We plant hope. Call us. We are here for you, for everyone looking for solutions. Thank you and welcome. See you in the climate park.
Can mangrove habitats be saved with blockchain and Web3? When we come back, we're going to be talking to Zhao and Victor with Starboard and Duncan with Veritry. Join our Mangrove Collaboration Challenge. Work with first-class designers to upgrade ReFi solutions for real-world applications. Have your work recognized in circles with notable investors, influencers, and domain experts. Register today at betterworlds.com/challenge. Awesome. And so how do you, for the people on the ground, right? Because they're the ones who are helping replant and take care and protect the mangroves that are being grown, reforested. So are there any incentives that the Web3 community can give to these people on the ground to basically keep them motivated to do this job or this work?
Yeah, if I could jump in for a second, that's a great question, and something that we've been focusing on, since I've been working at Veritry. Veritry grew out of a unique kind of position with Pentry, which was a clothing or is an apparel company that plants trees for every piece of clothing sold. And with that came a lot of experience working with communities on the ground to make sure that these trees stay in the ground. Yes. So at some point, every forest passes this, incentive line where the locals are no longer incentivized to keep the trees in the ground, whether it is, for lumber or for cooking or some, natural resource harvesting. We would like to focus on long-term incentives where people are able to reap the benefits that everyone, from the West is able to reap. So we're looking into like a bounty program where you can pay for different types of verification from, people who are just in the immediate vicinity. But yeah, we're looking to introduce some sort of long-term incentives where people will be, incentivized to not only keep the trees in the ground, but also photograph and verify that they're still, alive.
Right. So, sorry, Duncan, are you looking at the carbon credits there and to somehow give back to the community the carbon credits that they generate?
Yeah, so carbon credits are a sticky issue or kind of part of all of this. Right now, we're not focusing on any kind of accreditation or bringing them to market. However, the data that we're collecting, we hope one day will be, able to be ingested for some sort of accreditation. However, right now we're looking at DeFi as an interest-bearing solution to continuously pay people to do what we want, which is keep the trees in the ground.
Actually, that's a really interesting point because yesterday, both me and Vitor, we just visited this national park down in the south of Thailand, actually where we are now. And this was one of the main topics of conversation, how to keep the community not only involved, but obviously how to incentivize the community in the long term to be involved in these projects.
Yeah, I want to ask a follow-up there, Duncan, on you said it's a sticky subject with the carbon credits. In what way?
And it's just my personal opinion, but it's a sticky subject because the processes needed to bring the credits to market are often so expensive that it doesn't leave much for additional margin for the community. So by bringing these credits to market, you're able to reap an ROI. However, you're spending a lot of money to do it. So
you mean, for example, getting accredited by Vera or one of these organizations?
Taking like I'm specifically the audit is probably the most expensive component of bringing them to market. So Veritree is looking into ways to scale that audit and to use IoT devices and other kind of sensors to collect the data that would be collected during the audit. We're just looking for someone to accept that data and based on that before we leap in.
That was my other question. Like, how do you verify this and how do you put it on chain? Is it IoT? Is it some sensors? And how does that work?
Yeah, so right now we deployed a bunch of so we deployed this app that we call Veritree Collect, and it is a mobile, Android application. We also sent out 100 S4s to our planting locations, and we give the planters the ability to photograph and catalog the trees that they're planting. So they're not photographing every tree that they plant, but they are capturing, like scenery shots, and also so that we get a before and after of the work being done. And we're just starting to catalog, all of this planting. And from there, we put it on chain in two different ways. We publish it to a data storage solution called Arweave, and then we tokenize that access on Cardano. So the tokens grant access to the data set, and the data set is stored on a distributed storage solution.
What is tokenized? Is it hectares or square meters or individual trees?
It's individual trees that roll up into a planting session. So if 100,000 trees are planted, we'll mint 100,000 coins.
Yeah, well, the opportunity, I'll backtrack just for a second. So we started in Ethiopia, And I wanted to do that because I remembered Live Aid. That was a big event in my life, like a lot of people of a certain age. And when I went there, I said, well, how did that work out for you? They said, well, not very well, because the dictatorship of Mengistu and his cronies sucked up all the money. The food rotted on the docks. We didn't know how to do it back then. So it was an amazing moment of the world coming together and testing the wires. And I'm sure there were benefits. I don't mean to say there weren't, but we just didn't have the means to reach out directly together to each other, right? And at this point, we have that. We actually have the ability to invest money at one end and see that it reaches the right people at the other end, that it empowers land stewards, that it doesn't just, tweak up the wages of the people at the bottom of the pyramid a few cents, but it builds wealth. It builds community. It builds wealth in the communities and in the soil and in the natural environment. And that because we know how to do these things and we're beginning to know who can do them best, who are the best stewards of this, we are able to route capital directly to where it's needed to be applied in the ways that will have a net positive outcome. And I don't think up until very recently, we really had the means to do that. And ideally, if regenerative finance fulfills its promise, there are ways to eliminate the friction in the system, automate to an extent the verifications and our ability to do monitoring and evaluation via, for example, satellite. And in our case, we're even looking at ways to monitor carbon directly in the soil using a new technology that we're developing, so that you could have all of these different data streams being aggregated. In this case, we're working with Chainlink. So we're working with the Chainlink Oracle, which has an ability to aggregate these data streams from outside of the blockchain, from off-chain, and give a donor or an investor a whole picture of what's happening in the landscape. But in our case, we're adding all these, what we call the regenerative society factors of the community as well as the landscape. We're adding everything that is a co-benefit to building this regenerative society and saying, that's what we should be investing in. That's what we should be empowering through finance. We shouldn't look at this as just carbon credits, because to be honest, the world may have decided, the financial system may have decided that this is something that's fungible, that this is a real good, that we're going to trade this. That doesn't mean it's real. That doesn't mean that to some extent it's not a shell game. It still remains to be seen whether we're going to get a real net sequestration out of this. But if we look at the thing that we're supporting as inclusive of a more carbon negative system, but we include all these human and environmental benefits that should be the underlying store of value for any sane medium of exchange, then we might make progress. So we're trying to create a medium of exchange whose value resides in the health and well-being of communities and ecologies. So the idea that we're working on with a lot of passion and diligence is to create a medium of exchange that reflects the well-being of communities and landscapes, that isn't reduced to a single factor such as carbon credits, but wraps those in a much wider sense and verification of what is good for people and planet.
Let's take it to the local ground. And so I'm from Uganda, and someone was saying you're doing a project in Kenya. So the person on the ground is probably somewhere uneducated, maybe living way below poverty line, right? And so how do we translate the benefit of the mangrove to that person who is just looking for daily food? How do we do that for them?
Yeah, and this is something that I've been spending a lot of time thinking about and talking to the team about. And I don't know if I'll have a direct answer, but I can try to put myself in their shoes. And I think I think incentive, captures it the best. If you can figure out day to day what the person is most incentivized to do, they will hopefully follow that strategy. And the first kind of phase is planting. And after that, if the tree can survive for the first 5 years, there's like a 90% chance it'll continue live. So we're focusing on those first 5 years, and how do we not only incentivize and give them financial benefit of this forest, but also educate them on the potential uses and various benefits that the forest may bring. So we're hoping to kind of have an adapting strategy that will fit with the forest, the local community, and follow these guidelines of collecting all the data that's coming from this area. But we want to build incentives which are going to be unlocking small funding means, mechanisms for releasing photos. So we'll be almost trading for the person's photographs or data that they're submitting around this forest. And with cryptocurrency, you can do that. Like, I could lock up, 1 or 2 ADA into a contract that only releases if a person is able to send a photograph from this GPS location. So we're building to allow for that type of, technology integration.
It's very it's interesting for us because me and Joao were working together with WIF from Myanmar on a Mangrove Digital University, where we want to educate people on how to plant mangroves in areas where it's possible, and not just these huge projects, but also smaller communities. And we're looking at how to best create this content now, videos with experts in Myanmar. And then the next step will be kind of what Duncan is talking about, how to then reward these communities for their efforts. So it will be something like that we're also looking at, and very interesting to hear what Duncan is saying.
Well, it's great to hear what you're saying too, because I mean, I can only know half the story unless I go to the ground. So I mean, one day, or someday in the future, we're gonna be visiting the planting sites. But I think what you guys are doing and starting at the planting site is a great way to go about it.
All right, so I have a question for Joao. As a company that's in this mangrove reforestation, what is the biggest challenge that you're facing with carbon removal? What is the biggest obstacle to everybody doing it?
Right. So now I'm going to talk a bit more on a localized issue. A roadblock that we are facing is the Thai policies on that matter. So for context, projects here, they cannot have carbon credits issued by Vera, for example. They have to go to their local organization, which is called TGO, Thailand Greenhouse Gas Management Organization. And as you can imagine, this brings a bunch of limitations. So basically, the whole world market is already cut, because no one is gonna accept these carbon credits from this program. These carbon credits, by the way, the program is called TVER, Thailand Voluntary Emission Reduction Program. So this actually, I would say, is one of the biggest roadblocks we are facing at the moment in the projects in Thailand.
All right. How about you, Duncan? Same question.
Yeah, the biggest roadblock would be probably exploring methodologies that would let us scale. Using IoT sensors, using mobile devices as data ingestion points. That's something that Vera is not currently looking to do. So although we feel like we're building for the future and a more scalable carbon market, the largest market, which is 80% of the carbon market, they're not willing to explore this with us. So it's the biggest roadblock.
You say it's a big challenge. All right, so now let's go to Victor. Victor, I had a question for you, and it's basically, in talking to you guys, you've built your companies with the DNA of we're going to attach ourselves to the environment and help the environment, right? But there are these other companies that have been here for time, since all my life and before, and they're stuck in this model of profit, right? We're in it for profit. How is it that we can transition to this new economy, this new model, and how can we educate these other companies to follow suit into what we are doing?
I think slowly the consumer is starting to wake up, right? And that's what needs to happen. So it's pressure from consumers, and we vote with our wallets and so on. And I think since I started at Starboard 4.5 years ago, even then it was still questioned from people like Starboard's engagement with climate, from customers and from our distributors and so on, if this really is the right way to go, and the focus is this right to focus so much on sequestering CO2, planting trees, and that whole green angle. And then slowly more and more people have come around, and now it seems like everyone can see that this was the right way to go, and not just from a company like CSR standpoint, but actually for the climate, which is always what I've felt with Starboard, that it's a genuine interest to help the planet, especially since we're in the water a lot. I mean, we're a water sports company, and the surfers, they see this firsthand, what's happening to the planet. So I see that more and more our customers, I mean, and consumers, but also distributors, they start to come around to the idea that this is important, and it becomes an important thing for the brand to have this tool set, basically, to one more thing that we're doing and we're pushing. So I think that's what needs to happen. The consumer needs to wake up and start asking for this and choosing the companies that do these things.
While most of us dream of recreating a cleaner, greener, and more beautiful world, the financial system has very different priorities. It relies on infinite exploitation to feed a dream of endless growth. In reality, though, our lives depend on one planet with finite resources, and with that planet in the midst of a climate crisis. This disconnect between our financial system and our ecosystem is one we can no longer afford. Seeds offers a solution. A movement that allows us to share financial success, distribute value fairly, and move towards the common vision of a thriving civilization. Seeds gives humanity the tools to reimagine what money can be and do. A financial ecosystem designed to regenerate our planet and all who depend on it. Seeds, all uppercase, is the ecosystem's name, and Seeds, with a capital S, is its currency, one that's already rewarding the people and organizations creating a healthier, more equal and abundant world. Seeds uses cutting-edge technology aimed at creating a more healthy and stable economy. And there are no fees for using it. In fact, the more you exchange, the more value you help create. Value that Seeds reinvests in the planet via grants to community projects, regenerative businesses, and movements. Better still, as the value of Seeds grows, it flows to all members of the Seeds ecosystem, not based on wealth, but on how much they contribute to healing the planet and shaping Seeds itself. That's right, Seeds is a true democracy that lets us all own the change we want to see in the world. Finally, a financial system, by the people, for the people, to regenerate our planet. Yes, let's do this.
So everything that I'm hearing is it's more of a re-education of the public and the corporations that are out there. Like, this is the way to go. We have to educate them. We have to lead them in that direction, right? So have we thought about using, maybe you're already doing it, but have we thought about something that has worked in the economic spectrum using influencers? So people that are in high priority areas, actors, musicians, whatever, using them to basically educate the masses because they have the people watching them, right? So how can we tap into that aspect of it and use the influencers to direct attention to what you are doing as companies, as a new economy, a new way of thinking? Victor, since you're already there.
Right. I can only speak for us. It's very important when our team writers and the superstars in our universe also adapt this thinking and start speaking to their audience. And I think it helps when the brand that, I mean, Starboard, that are pushing them is talking about this, and then it spreads, and then the ambassadors, the team writers, start talking about it. That's how we try to use them. to spread the word. And yeah, and then of course it needs to come from the really big superstars as well. And so we see people like DiCaprio and so on. But yeah, it needs to be talked about from all directions, I think. So we're doing what we can in our relatively small world of water sports. Yeah.
And how about you, Duncan? Are you seeing any traction there, or do you have any strategies in that aspect?
Yeah, including influencers is always a great strategy. I think what VeraTree can do is we look to 10tree, which is a top 5 Instagram brand, and kind of can use them as a bit of a launching point. I think that puts us as a bit of a unique situation. But to that point, the fact that 10tree is such a massive brand and something that consumers really care about, I think they actually have one of, if not the most liked post, which is one like plants one tree, and there was like 15 million or 18 million likes from that post. So it's something the consumers are talking about, they care about, and obviously would like more content for.
All right, and so where do you see this tokenized movement, this Web3 new economy, new way of thinking? Where do you see it happening within the next 3 years, and how it attaches itself to the mangrove reforestation? If you can project. Let's start with Joao.
Yeah, I can definitely see Web3 changing and improving, let's call it this movement, by bringing the community together through incentives, all these sorts of incentive plans that we've just been talking up until now. And also the fact that Web3 allows you to own things, right? To actually own digital assets. And I think that brings a whole new concept of, for example, you can now own a tree, right? You're now in America, but all of a sudden you can invest and own a tree here in Thailand. How cool is that? So even next time you come to Thailand, you can come and visit a project where you own your set of trees or space or whatever project we're talking about. And I think that brings a whole new perspective to this world.
I like that because, I can see a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 18-year-old saying, I own a tree in Thailand, and they want to take a trip out just to go see their tree and take an Instagram-worthy pic. So you're making it relatable to where it's fun, it's friendly, but we're doing good in the community. So I like that. How about you, Victor? Where do you see this going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, first, what you said just now, it's something we discussed yesterday in the national park with them, because of course they want tourism also. That's another incentive for them to keep planting trees. So if people all around the world can own trees, it makes them more likely to maybe come and actually see those trees and keep contributing to planting more. And then, yeah, I think as Joao said, a lot will happen in this space now, and ownership in the digital sense. A lot of opportunities there, and that's exactly what Duncan is also doing and talking about. Then we haven't mentioned what me and Joao maybe do mostly in the Web3 space, but that's with Starboard and Somewhere. We have launched a social token called Blue Tiki, BTiki, on the Celo blockchain. So that's another thing that I think will happen more and more, social tokens to gather communities. So our goal with that is to gather the climate conscious community, the surf community as well, to kind of push towards this common goal of sequestering more carbon. So we're creating an economy there where you can earn the token by doing positive climate actions, picking up beach trash and so on, and then you can spend these tokens to buy either our climate positive apparel or to plant more trees. So that's another thing. I think we'll see more social tokens, more communities in general forming around Web3.
That's impressive. I was actually talking to somebody about this. You guys are called it Blue Tiki or BTiki. And the other gentleman was talking about another one, but it's almost, we're creating a currency for good. So you do good in the community, you go out there and you help the community or our Mother Earth, and then in incentive you get a token that you can go buy a surfboard or whatever it is in particular stores. So I really enjoy that part of the process. How about Duncan? How do you see it in the next 3 years? What do you foresee in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think a lot's going to happen over the next 3 to 5 years. right now we're seeing a really unique moment, I think, in history where blockchain has enough utility and use cases that people care enough about it that it stays mainstream. If we watched over the last 10 years, there's been some bull and bust times, but nothing that has, blockchain has never been at a point where we actually have enough utility where it doesn't just crash for 4 years.
Right.
So I'm really excited to see all of these different, more or less siloed kind of ways of thinking or projects start to come together. So we'll see like a cross section of DeFi and reforestation, a cross section of DeFi and carbon credits. NFT ownership will start to be more ingrained into other kind of DeFi components. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a whole kind of washing over of combinations of projects, and it's all going to kind of look the same to most people outside of the space. But us who've been in here for a while, we'll be able to differentiate and see. I more or less in the next 3 to 5 years, I hope people stop differentiating between Web 2, Web 3. We can kind of just look at it like a really exciting.
Just basically an evolution. It's nothing different. We're just evolving into a better system, a better way of thinking, a better way of working.
I believe we're all co-creating a new world paradigm together. I have my vision of it. The beautiful piece about the decentralized world built in holacracy and sociocracy is we're able to harness the benefit of collective intelligence. So I have my views, but the beauty of the process is, it's a collective view that comes out at the end of the day. And, that collective view, we are forming every day. It's critical that we focus on the regenerators at the grassroots, and this is a bottom-up movement. And I think that is very clear to everyone that, this is owned and controlled by the participants that use the system. And, on that basis, there is no top-down strategy. It is only a bottom-up adoption.
Can blockchain and DeFi be used to finance carbon removal? When we come back, we're going to be talking to Alden with Nori, Christian with the Regen Network, and Dr. Delton Chen. So now, coming from my background, before 2 weeks ago, I knew nothing about carbon credits. I knew nothing about the DeFi world, but I'm quickly learning. And I was talking to my wife about it, and she has no idea about this. So there's a whole group of people that don't know what you are working on. So if I can ask a very basic question, and real quick, let's start with you, Delton. What are carbon credits, and how can the general person living their daily life apply carbon credits to their life and save the world?
Okay, well, by definition, a carbon credit is when an entity removes carbon from the atmosphere or avoids emitting carbon and then records it on a ledger with some kind of authority, and then they sell it to a market that wants to buy it for some reason. And originally the concept was polluters in cap and trade schemes would buy these credits as an alternative to reducing their emissions. So there's actually an economic theory behind this that by trading carbon credits, it can lower the cost of mitigation for polluters. That's the original purpose. Now, whether or not citizens, average people, can participate, maybe it's possible now. You can buy credits from markets. It's not difficult. But the original concept was more macroeconomic. I think the other speakers might have more to say about how individuals could participate. In my mind, it's not going to be a decisive factor in climate change, whether individuals can buy carbon credits or not.
I actually agree with Delton's last statement, but having said that, the Nori marketplace was built to address 4 key goals, and the first of which was to be the first marketplace that individual households and persons who have small footprints and want to address them by buying credits could go direct to market. And the reason that was important is in every other option except Nori right now, if to buy and to sell, both sides of the transaction have to go through a third party, a broker or aggregator. The net result is that in all of the well-established markets, it's very unlikely that any more than 20% of the price the buyer pays actually gets to the credit generator, in our case, farmers or ranchers. So our goal was to create that interface that allowed small landholders to directly offer their credits for sale, and for small buyers to buy the credits. And we're very, very proud of it. It's still pilot phase. We've only sold around 80,000 credits to date, but the average credit buyer in the Nori marketplace buys 4 tons, and of the average $17.50 that the buyers pay, $15 gets directly to the farmer or rancher, and they have to pay verification costs, but in our marketplace, that's well under $1. So they're netting $14 compared to they would be in the range of 75 cents to under $3 if they were doing the same transaction elsewhere.
Oh, impressive. And so if I can rephrase that, and it's again for you, the way Nori is working is to basically make sure that the funds get to the end user and not some rich middleman that takes it and pays at the dollar, right?
Yeah, that's a nasty way to put it. Thank you for doing it that way.
Because that's basically what my wife was asking. Like, okay, I'm buying a credit, but who is getting the benefits, right? I'm trying to save the world, but am I making some guy rich and he's actually not doing what he's supposed to do? And so if I can make it a bit crude but basic, then the common person can understand and say, okay, I can get involved in this.
There's a big picture aspect to it too. It doesn't seem to matter what culture you're in or society you're in when it comes to food and fiber, food, clothing, and shelter. In all of the traditional commodity markets, big intermediaries, processors and distributors really control the price, and farmers and ranchers don't get very much of the share of the market value of an orange either. So we want new commodity that food and fiber producers could sell and actually have some reasonable share of the market value coming into them. We thought it was really important to get this right for food and fiber producers.
Awesome. So now, Christian, how is crypto being decarbonized? Like, what is happening currently that could help cryptocurrency and DeFi be decarbonized, and why is that important?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a couple different conversations to be had here. First is the question that you asked about how can we use the carbon markets to help decarbonize the crypto space, because we've all heard that there's a lot of energy usage by the blockchain and crypto world. And the second question is kind of the opposite. How can we utilize the tools of cryptocurrency, distributed ledger, to help improve the carbon markets? And so both of those are interesting and good questions. But let me answer your question first. And starting with from the perspective of Regen Network, we launched our chain in the Cosmos community. Cosmos is one of the leading blockchains out there, and the Cosmos community was founded with ethics around environmental sustainability. And all the other chains that have been built and connected to the Cosmos ecosystem also share those ethics, or I should say many of those chains share those ethics. And they've been looking for a way to find some way to offset the impact that they make. First of all, they chose to build with proof of stake rather than proof of work, which immediately reduced the impact of their blockchain by 1/1000th of something like Bitcoin. But there's still an impact, right? We're still running servers, and there's the duplicity of verification services that are happening on blockchain. So how do we offset those impacts? And what they would like to find is carbon credits that are run and managed in a way that meets their ethics and values, run with transparency, with clarity, with a track record, so that you can look into exactly what it is that you're buying, right? So Nori is a great example of a organization that offers such credits. Regen Network is also another organization that offers such credits. So a group like the Cosmos Hub or Osmosis, the DEX, that's the leading DEX on Cosmos, looks to offset their carbon. They come to the carbon and then they're able to bring those on chain. And we're just weeks away from having a liquidity pool offered on Osmosis where anyone can then acquire those carbon credits. Once they acquire those credits out of the carbon pool, they can then withdraw them from the pool and see the individual metadata associated with those credits, so they know exactly which regeneration projects those credits are associated with, and then they can retire them and put them out of service forever.
The challenge is always social. Problems like land tenure, encroachment, trying to make sure that everybody's objectives are the same, that say a forest department share the same objectives as a local community and other interested stakeholders. And then just education of how to get this right. Forest departments in particular need to understand that it isn't like terrestrial production forestry. It's not about planting a single species in a straight line at 2 meter spacing. It's about recreating the conditions to allow nature to heal itself and facilitating natural regeneration. So we would see that the challenges are almost always social. We know how to do the biophysical, or indeed walk away from the site because it will never become mangrove. The challenge is always social, and the solution is always social too.
Paul, yeah, engineered methods, air scrubbers. There are natural methods, which our other guests are talking about, and there are hybrid methods. So natural methods would be soil carbon, reforestation, and then hybrid methods would be something like bioenergy, carbon capture and storage, which uses biomass and engineered technologies. So sequestration, or I tend to call it carbon dioxide removal, it's a bit easier to say, CDR, is a major concept for climate mitigation, but the other concept is more conventional, and that is reducing emissions. So there is a narrative in the climate change world that we should be prioritizing the reduction of emissions by radically reducing our fossil fuel consumption, first of all. But I personally believe, and I advise, that we need to change our attitude about that. I think we need to go 100% for reductions in fossil fuel emissions and 100% for sequestration, carbon removal at the same time. I don't think it's about one's a priority over the other. Both have to be done with equal vigor.
Awesome. And Delton, what do you think that we have to keep, this carbon credits and this kind of economy separate from the typical system that we have right now? Or should there be a blend? Like, do you think it has to be by itself, or can we blend together with the banks and with the governments and kind of work a solution together? Or do you believe it has to be separate, completely different from what we have right now?
What I think is that carbon markets as they are today, and not just carbon markets, but the whole concept of carbon pricing is fundamentally inadequate, because the economists have said repeatedly that we would have needed today a global price of $100 per ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. Today, the average price is more like $3 per ton or something like that. And carbon pricing only covers maybe 1/5 of the world's emissions, something like that, close to that. So we're orders of magnitude underperforming, and you can't really escape the problem of the price, because what the price is telling us is how much economic effort has to be put in to reduce emissions or take carbon out of the atmosphere. So we need to look at the macroeconomics and the pricing as an indicator. So to answer your question, my proposal, and this is just my proposal, nobody has to agree with it, of course, but I'm saying that we could potentially achieve the pricing we need and provide the movement of finance, this liquidity problem, the climate finance gap, if we obtain and arrange a public finance guarantee. So the finance guarantee that I propose with my colleagues is a central bank guarantee for a reward price for mitigated carbon. So if we have central banks backstop a price, then we can have a predictable long-term reward price that's debt-free and doesn't require any carbon offsetting. So a lot of the carbon market discussion we have today is about offsetting. You see, if you have a credit and you want to earn some money, you sell it as an offset. So offsetting doesn't actually mitigate, it tends to neutralize pollution, and it can lead to greenwashing and other risks. So if we move to a reward price where there's no offsetting and it's backstopped by central banks, then we can move the private finance into mitigation quite likely at the scale we need, which is roughly about 3 to 5 trillion per year for conventional mitigation. And then for carbon removal, roughly speaking, we're going to need 100 trillion this century. $100 trillion, that's a lot of money. So, you know, the economy annually turns over at maybe 80 trillion. So just do the math. It's to do with the gigatons of carbon that we're emitting beyond the carbon budget for 1.5 degrees and even 2 degrees.
Awesome. Alden, do you have any ideas how we can take it mainstream, where we can get people involved? Because if we can create a customer base that demands this new economy, then it forces the big companies to reevaluate their actions. So do you have any ideas how we can take carbon credits, this new economy, into the mainstream and into people's faces where they're interested and they're actually taking action?
I have a strong bias in that regard. I think the easy answer to that question is go check out www.nori.com because I think that's the way to see it. But I also want to go back to, we don't yet have anywhere in the established markets anything that really is a market. And for me, the challenge is a very simple one, and it's not all that hard to fix. And until we fix it, nothing we say about carbon markets will make sense to the normal person. In reality, even in regulated markets, we don't have double entry bookkeeping. So when I go to sell you real interest in -1, an offset or a credit, supposedly I'm selling you real interest in a reduction in an inventory that I own and I cost. I can't see it, but it's a physical reality. In every carbon market in the world right now, including the California and all of the other regulated markets, after I sell real interest in -1, I don't add +1 to my inventory. There's no balancing entry. So you're either buying nothing or you're buying half a ton in a credit that's denominated as 1. If we just sort of step back and said, wait a second here, we've got decades and decades and decades of rules that say if a company wants to sell equity or a share or offer it for sale to the general public, the first thing they have to do is produce 3 years of audited financial reports. And every year they have to update their reports and show how many shares are in their inventory and how many shares are out there in the public. And you can see that each share is counted once. And interestingly enough, companies can register and offer their shares for sale over multiple exchanges worldwide without selling one share more than once. In the carbon markets, I get to offer stuff for sale without any obligation to publish my inventory or to enable the general public to see that I'm not selling it twice. And in fact, in every market, including the regulated markets, it's getting sold at least twice. So it's kind of dumb. Like somebody's going to look back and say, no, they've had double entry bookkeeping for what, century or 2? But somehow we've launched this amazing new market with no balancing entries in the inventories that are supposedly represented. And that's not unique to carbon sequestration or natural solutions markets. That's whether we're accounting for fossil fuel emissions or in every market, everything's counted at least twice. So I can show you markets where it's counted at least 3 times. It's easy to fix. We know how to do it. We just haven't decided to do it.
And why do you think we haven't done it?
don't know. The historians are going to look back and look at us and say, gee, you know, that's really interesting that all of a sudden the most important market to launch in history goes ahead without balancing entries when you sell real interest in a -1. I can't explain it. I was the largest private sector buyer of carbon credits in the world in 2002. And when I saw the first draft of the European emissions trading rules, the Northeast US state RGGI trading rules, and the Chicago Climate Exchange operating rules, so it wasn't just government, it was private sector, I had to go back to my members and say, guess what? There's no double entry here. It's inevitable that the price of carbon will crash, and you'll never get a price of carbon that's equal to the value or the marginal cost of 1 ton when the underlying value of every certificate that says 1 on it is no more than 0.5 and is typically more like 0.3. And we're still there. Now, again, can we fix it easily? Yes.
We are here with Joanne Sawicki in Paris, France, based out of London. She's with Planet Positive Ventures. And hi, Joe. How are you doing?
Hi, Mutz. Thanks for having me. And it's fantastic to be here on Earth Day. Thank you for the pleasure.
What does Earth Day mean to you?
So for me, Earth Day is about giving back. It's about the one day where the world, 1 billion of us, are focused on the Earth, what it's given to us, what we need to nurture the Earth. We just carelessly extract all the time from the Earth. We forget how much the Earth gives us, and we don't give anything back. And this one day, Earth Day, is the day that we can think about the Earth, love it, nurture it, give it back, because in the end, we're nature too. And what we give back to the Earth, we give back to us as well.
Right. And so what are you currently working on? What project are you working on that is helping our Earth, that is helping us preserve our Earth and saving our world?
Well, there's 2 things. First of all, my background has always been in environment and healthcare. And to me, planetary care and personal health, so the personal health and the health of the planet, they're completely interconnected. We've just experienced this for the last 2 years with the big epidemic. But really, it's about us caring for ourselves and our health and being more aware of who we are and how we operate as a part of nature. And as we become more conscious of that, you start to become more aware of what the planet needs, because the planet is an organism. It needs to be nourished and nurtured. We can't keep taking, we need to give back. Part of what we're doing is we've set up something called Planet Positive Ventures. And Planet Positives was set up 2 years ago at the beginning of the lockdown. And it's a whole ecosystem of funders, foundations, grant givers, entrepreneurs, philanthropists, and we've created an ecosystem behind getting behind climate change solutions and scaling them and making them viable, because really there's all the technology that we need right here, right now. It needs money behind it, and it just needs people to join the dots. We need to be working in concert. We need to be working in collaboration with each other. Governments, philanthropists, funders, we all need to work with corporates and civil society. We need to join it up. It needs to be done in a non-linear way, and it needs to be done now. And there's so many cool entrepreneurs that we have that we keep getting behind from all over the world. And these entrepreneurs are really scaling things that will make a difference now.
So now, before you leave, is there any parting words that you can give to anybody that's watching right now that you can let them know how to get involved in this mission to save our planet?
Certainly. I mean, really, all the answers lie in your home. Like 70% of all of our emissions come from the built environment. Literally, how you live and what you do, and when you turn on that light and when you switch on your engine on your car, just be more aware. You can insulate your home. You can make sure there aren't drafts where the energy is coming out of the house. You can change your light bulbs over to LED. You can make sure that there are no water leaks in your house. There are really simple things that will save you money and energy and will help the environment. And when you're building a new house, do you really need to use all new materials? Can you reuse things that are already there? You can retrofit things. You don't need to throw good things away. It's cool to do retro.
I absolutely understand that. I saw a a hotel demolished right here in Tulsa, and I was like, all that material could have been used to refurbish a new home or something like that. And so I understand the value of reusing what is already in place. So I truly thank you for your time. And we would love to follow up with you, what you're doing wherever you are. I know you are in Paris right now, based in London, but we would love to follow up in the near future and see what you're doing and see your progress.
Thank you. There's one other point I wanted to say, fast
Go ahead.
fashion. The second biggest polluting industry after the oil and gas industry is the fashion industry.
Is it?
We unthinkingly buy things, throw them away. People go through 7 pairs of shoes on average a year, and a lot of people buy far more than that.
Right.
You can buy fashion now. That I've just been in a high street in Paris, and I went into Monoprix, and there were about 4 or 5 different labels that were all eco-friendly. There are materials you can have, like linen or new eco fabrics made out of tree fiber. You don't have to hurt the planet by wearing your fashion, and you can reuse things and reinvent them. So you can do that in your house and what you're wearing as well.
That is amazing, and I truly thank you for that. And it's always a pleasure talking to you, Joe, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, and happy Earth Day, everybody.
Amen. When we come back, more from Alden, Delton, and Christian. Stay tuned.
There was this moment I was sailing across the Atlantic, and it's been really, really powerful experience. And I closed my eyes and I thought, how amazing if I just had some dolphins show up right now. And lo and behold, they did. But it was one of the most fascinating and engaging moments I had of deep connection.
How do you want people to see the future based off of what you are doing, the work that you're doing, the projects that you're running? How can they get in touch with you? How can they help you build what you're trying to build or trying to put forward in this earth? They'll start with you, Delton.
Thanks, Paul. First of all, I'd like to say that I agree totally with Christian and Alden about the fact that we need to really appreciate the co-benefits of putting carbon into the ecosystem and keeping it there, especially places that are healthy for human beings, providing food and fiber, providing healthy soils, protecting biodiversity and forests, etc. We're still a bit confused about this in that it's well understood that keeping carbon in the soil and forests is risky, okay? Because forests are very susceptible to changes in rainfall. Now, we're going to have major changes in rainfall, which will impact forests, and they'll give up carbon. Like they're talking about the whole Amazon desiccating, becoming a savanna. Imagine how much carbon will be released. So it is a risky venture, but we have no choice. We've got to put the carbon in the biosphere and try and keep it there and find clever ways to do that. But I just add to that, the decentralized approach makes a lot of sense to me, with technologies that people are developing. However, I think we just need to backstop it with some public finance guarantee, and central banks are ideal for that. I think we just have to develop some new social principles and theories about why that should take place. And then, and I don't mean to be pessimistic, I'm just trying to be, objective here.
All right. How about you, Alden?
Well, obviously, I think I've argued why first priority should be to sequester carbon in a manner that is creating a healthier topsoil layer and food and fiber supply. Then I'm really confident that my grandchildren, or no, maybe my great-grandchildren, will be living in houses with tiny fans that are miniaturized version of what we think of as direct air capture. And the CO2 they capture isn't going to be sequestered deep in a saline reservoir. It's going to go downstairs into the processing unit that's no larger than a Tesla electricity storage station, and they're going to be making their own Lego with their 3D printers. I mean, it's like, it's not, that is not unprecedented innovation. That kind of progress is in line, is minor compared to some of the things we've achieved as human beings over the last 100 years. So come on, let's just get over ourselves and do what we know how to do.
Right, I like that. And lastly, Christian.
Yeah, one thing I think is important for any listener to leave here with is recognizing that this isn't abstract. You know, it's easy to think about carbon, sequestering carbon out of the atmosphere. It's something that you can't even see, and so it's a very intellectual mind game. But this is not an abstract concept. This is actually about our communities and our cultures and our societies and the richness of life around us, right? What I think everyone on this call is looking for is for a planet that can allow humans and other species to be able to thrive, you know, and that thriving comes from healthy ecosystems. It comes from biodiversity, and all of that is built through the sequestration of carbon. So we're not here to talk about decentralization and financial markets and some abstract concepts. We're here to talk about a thriving planet for our grandkids, as Alden mentioned.
So I would like to say thank you for taking out time out of your busy schedules from everything that you're doing and taking the time out to speak to me and our viewers. And if there's any way that we can be of service to you, please let us know how we can get in touch with you. But other than that, have a wonderful day, and I hope to talk to you soon and see your progress.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks so much.
Welcome back. And right now we have a special guest with us, Gian Briselli with Astro Decentralized Music Studios. He's here to tell us about a project that he's working on. Gian, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. This was great. I was really enjoying the day here.
Right.
Got my little tea here, and it's been a blast. Thank you for having me here.
I would think it's been a pleasure to have you on board. So now tell us, what are you most excited about with this new Web3 future?
Ooh, boy, there's so much. I think there's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot to be skeptical about. There's a lot to press the movement forward and, you know, look at ourselves. I think we are living through a revolution, really, and there's opportunities to everything, to good and bad, to scams, to amazing things. People are gonna succeed. Good ideas will fail. Bad ideas will succeed.
Right.
But I am personally, of course, more excited, you know, to introduce the technology that is being brought upon us into the world that I mostly reside on, which is the music world. And yeah, I can't really wait to really birth all of the stuff that we're cooking here and you know, into the world.
So now, if you can give me a brief synopsis on what is a decentralized music studio.
Well, there is a lot. That is a good question. I can talk your ears off if I can. In a nutshell, we are more and more trying to shift from the outdated record label model. I think we all know that record labels tended to explore a lot the artist.
Right.
And then I was really from, even before this whole, 3.0 started to emerge, more mainstream, I was like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right. How can I make something that is going to help the artist and of course help myself too? I'm not saying, just be super altruistic all the time, but altruistic, but also empowering, not all predatory, right? Regenerative. That's the word that everyone is talking about right now, right? And then poof, I think as soon as I started to grasp the possibilities of 3.0, we understand that we could maybe shift from old record label model to maybe possibly a DAO format. We're thinking about tokenizing market cap, distributing to all the artists, revenue that comes in from radio flow and licensing and other, sponsorships, merchandise, all kind of becomes, one within this environment, right? Now we can really openly trade between ourselves, but also we might start to see investors, fans pitching in more and more in their favorite artist reality.
Oh, nice.
I think creator economy is here to stay, and Web 3.0 is here to facilitate creator economy for sure. There's a lot of nuances and small steps how we're gonna get there.
Right.
But I think in a nutshell, that's about the ballpark of what we're doing.
All right, sounds like a very exciting venture, and there's more to learn and more to see. And so I hear that you have music. You have music dropping today. Is that right?
Yes, we do have a big single coming out today, especially planned to be released today. It's called A Jornada de Santiago. It's a name in Portuguese, meaning the journey of Santiago. And it's a track by me, Chinmaya Dunster, and Jeremy Marais. And I'm super excited to share that with the world. I think this track really encompasses all the wonders that we are about to explore, and there is just so much. So yeah, I'm really excited about it.
And when can we get to hear this beautiful song that you're describing?
If you pay attention to the winds of technology and magic, you're actually listening to it right now.
Really?
Yes, you are.
That is awesome.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, it was a beautiful day, foggy day here in Berkeley. Felt the inspiration strike, was just sat down and birthed the song, and I had the immense pleasure to have Chinmaya and Jeremy to lay their melodies on the track. So
I would like to thank you for your time. We're about to run out of time on our show. So I would like to thank you for coming on and giving us a bright future to look forward to, and success in all that you're doing.
Thank you for the opportunity. Deeply appreciate it.
When we come back, we're going to have closing remarks, and stay tuned. We hope you're inspired by today's special Earth Day broadcast. We covered a multitude of topics, including DAOs, ReFi, Web3, tools for creation of solutions for planetary, nature, and economic issues. If you want to continue on to work with the experts in this field, become a part of our collaborative challenges. As a reminder, in May, our challenge will be facilitated by Nature Tech Nexus and powered by Mural. It offers a full education of mangroves, as well as the challenge created by politics, people, and the environment. This is a time for opening our imaginations to all that is possible and seemingly impossible. Register at betterworlds.com/challenge to solve our problems with our partners. Information about this entire Earth Day program is posted at betterworlds.com. Today's session highlighted clips from each interview. Those full interviews may be heard online on our website. Cheers to all of you for being here today and delving into complex issues that face our modern world and our natural world. On behalf of Earth and all its inhabitants, we thank you for your attention, your ideas, and your collaboration.